From Eddie, the silent assassin Alvarez backing the Notorious up, to the veteran Houston Alexander inviting him to the promotion, this is the real reason why Conor McGregor would do well in bare-knuckle fighting. Mystic Mac's former rival thinks he'd do well with BKFC because his boxing is just phenomenal. On top of that, the Irishman's also got a decent range for his height, which kinda makes his knuckles drag. Combine that with his fighting IQ, that would just make Conor dangerous inside the ring. While talking to Ariel Helwani on the MMA Hour, the Underground King was full of praise for McGregor. He also acknowledged that the team behind the legend is also smart, and they pick up on stuff really quickly. Alvarez did show some reservations about Conor's clinch game in bare-knuckle fighting, though. He thinks that it's very different from what the MMA guys would be used to, because it's junkyard dog and the cleaner boxer usually gets owned in the clinch. Having said that, Eddie still thinks that Conor's gonna do great as a bare-knuckle fighter. The American knuckle star would love nothing more than to avenge his UFC title loss to the Notorious, so he really hopes that the Irishman can make it to BKFC one day and face him. The rivalry between them might never die, but Alvarez was glad to have McGregor ringside for his debut. You see, the Underground King was up against another former UFC star, Chad Mendes. The two of them were co-headlining BKFC 41, and the event was so hotly anticipated that even the Notorious decided to show up to it. He was just chugging his whiskey and having a good time when he saw something that could help Eddie out, and he just called it. Mendes was kinda hitching whenever Alvarez threw anything in his direction. So recognizing that, Conor started yelling for an uppercut. Eddie picked up on it and landed a clean strike on Chad, after which he pointed toward the Mystic Mac to acknowledge the call. The American knuckle star told Helwani that it was something that he does with his coach as well. Whenever Mark Henry shouts out a move to him and he's able to execute it, Alvarez gives his coach the credit by pointing at him. That's what he did with Conor too. It's great to see the sportsmanship alive between Eddie and the Irishman, even after so many years. But McGregor was shouting out instructions toward Mendes as well. The Underground King doesn't really hold that against the Notorious, though, because it wasn't like he was betting on any one of them. Conor was just there to see a good fight, so he probably just shouted stuff at fighters whenever he saw something. The Irishman has a history with both of these men. He took down Chad at UFC 189 to secure the interim featherweight title, and defeated Alvarez at UFC 205 to claim the lightweight title and become the first double champ in UFC's history. Eddie holds no grudges against Conor, though. In fact, he's happy with what the Irishman has done for himself, because it's not easy to survive and make money in combat sports. It's a tough life, and Conor making the most of what he has earned is completely justified. Eddie regrets that he couldn't speak to his former rival at the event, but he hopes that one day McGregor can meet him in the BKFC ring as well. McGregor, on the other hand, had eyes on the main event and got invited to the ring by Mike Perry. The Platinum shattered some of Luke Rockhold's teeth in his second-round TKO and then shouted at Conor for a stare-down. You know how UFC's former double champ can't ever turn down a challenge, so he stepped into the ring with a BKFC belt on his shoulder. Mike was really respectful to the Notorious during their short exchange, and McGregor was also appreciative of being invited to the ring. He said that he loved the event, and that everyone who stepped up that night was a warrior. The Irishman was impressed by the matchmaking and the storytelling, and added that he'd be into this sport for sure. Then he reverted back to his character and started shouting how does he already have a belt when he just showed up to the event, and challenged Perry to come get the strap from him. That was just Conor being himself, so it's unlikely that he's gonna just join their ranks right away. Plus, he's still under contract by the UFC, and Dana isn't gonna let go of him to a rival so easily. But Platinum still hopes the Notorious is seriously considering a move to bare-knuckle fighting. In the post-fight press conference, Mike said that he likes the idea of fighting McGregor next, because he too likes to box and the two of them could just throw hands. He was also grateful to Conor for giving him a face-off and making the event bigger than it already was. Perry said he's humble in victory and in defeat, so anyone who wants to fight him is welcome any day. You've got to admit it, guys, it'd make for one hell of a match between these two. Mike's got a solid chin and he can box pretty well. While talking to TMZ, Perry said that it'll be great if Conor can get done with fighting Michael Chandler and make his way to BKFC. According to Platinum, that has the potential to be the biggest fight in the world, because both of them are great at trash talking, and the fans will know that they'll be in for an entertaining night. Whether that happens anytime soon is another matter, but for now, the BKFC president is ecstatic with what Conor did for them. David Feldman said that he was paying attention to the fights and wasn't really expecting the Irishman to do anything. The arena was completely sold out, and the crowd was just amazing. But the Notorious made it bigger when he jumped in to stare down Perry, and it made the whole event go viral. Everyone's talking about it now, so it just helped BKFC's stock skyrocket overnight. Feldman also said that he wasn't expecting Conor to get in the ring, but he thinks that the Mystic Mac's ego got the better of him, because the Irishman was kinda challenged after all. The boss realizes that McGregor is currently tied up by his commitments to the UFC, but once he's done with them, Feldman would love to have the Irishman in their organization. The Notorious is the face of combat sports, so you can imagine why the BKFC would want to sign him up immediately. David isn't sure Conor's going to go down that path, but he's still thankful to him for what he did for them the other night for free. While the BKFC president might be happy with Mystic Mac, I'm sure that stint gave Dana White a headache. He just had his poster boy go up to a ring of a rival, with their belt on his shoulder. The UFC boss was asked about this in an interview, and he just kind of tried to laugh it off. Dana thinks that Conor was just having a good time and got caught up in the moment. Perry just called him out, and obviously the Irishman wasn't going to say no. White also highlighted the fact that his superstar was pounding a bottle of Proper 12, which happens to be Conor's brand of whiskey. So that probably also had a lot to do with McGregor stepping in the BKFC ring. At the end of the day, Dana isn't insecure about any of it, because the Notorious has done a lot for the UFC and has made them tons of money over the years. So it's all good for the boss. At least that's what he's saying, but it's hard to imagine Dana not losing some sleep over the whole thing. The thing that he doesn't realize is that not many MMA guys can do well in bare knuckle, according to Alexander Houston at least. The veteran MMA OG currently fights under the BKFC banner, and he's 3-0 up till now. In an interview with TMZ, the assassin shared his thoughts on fighters transitioning from mixed martial arts to bare knuckle boxing, and said that the new sport separates the men from the boys. He added that the boxing skills and the positioning is very important in bare knuckle, because the fighters must know what they're doing or risk losing their teeth. Houston especially advised the grapplers and the kicking enthusiasts to stay away from the BKFC ring, because they're going to get themselves exposed. Having said that, Alex thinks that Conor will do pretty well in this sport. The Irishman is a great striker and can position really well in the ring, so he can make the jump from MMA with relative ease. But he'd still have to pay some close attention to other details in bare knuckle, like he can't afford to keep his hands down, because then he'll risk having his face cut open by a single punch. Houston does make a point, though. Conor's always been really good at striking, and he's really fast with that infamous left hand of his. But at the same time, the assassin would just love having the Notorious fight in his promotion, because he'll attract more eyes, and more eyes means more money. Can't say I blame him for that, but no one can really get Conor to do something he didn't want to. So, from the veteran Houston Alexander's inviting him to the promotion, to Eddie Alvarez backing the Notorious up. This was the real reason why Conor McGregor would do well in bare-knuckle fighting.